Mr. Speaker.
Mr. O'Rourke.
Mr. Speaker, here in this bill is one small step for Kiwi kind, but one massive trip up for climate change targets as far as New Zealand is concerned. And that's because here is one small step in a complete absence of any genuine plan or strategy for New Zealand to achieve or even make any significant progress towards achieving its Paris commitments for climate change and reduction of emissions. And that's the truth of the matter there. Now, Mr. Speaker, I recently attended in Christchurch a forum on climate change, and Chatham House rules applied, so I can't quote anybody who was there, but I can say this, that there were business people there, and I was encouraged by the positive attitude which they had to taking some real steps towards the reduction of emissions for climate change purposes in New Zealand. And it was very good to see that, because they were enthusiastic and wanted to get things done. They had a pretty good understanding of what would be expected of them, and they actually saw it as an opportunity for them, many of them, to get a competitive advantage over other businesses which weren't taking the actions that would be required. And other people present were from local government, and they were calling out for central government leadership on these issues. And in fact, local government is champing at the bit. And they wanted to hear from central government what its plans were so that local government could do its bit towards tackling climate change through the reduction of CO2 emissions in particular. So all we get in response from the government is not only no leadership, but no genuine action at all, or vague commitments which actually amount to nothing much more than planning to plan for the future. And all these months after the Paris commitments were given, that's as far as we've got, and now this minor, insignificant step forward. Now, I heard today from government speakers about consultation and how wonderful it had been that 75% of those consulted would support this measure. But the truth is, there has actually been no consultation at all on the much more important question about what specific steps New Zealand will take to achieve its climate change commitments. No talk about that, no consultation at all, and yet these people are waiting, ready and waiting to be talked to make a contribution, to find out what is expected of them, and then to take those actions that are expected of them. And business, agriculture, and local government are looking for government leadership because they want to act. They need to know how they should act. They need to know that there will be, business people in particular, need to know that there will be a level playing field which has to be achieved by a comprehensive raft of regulation, no other way of doing that. They want to see that in place so that they can take the actions they want to take. And they need the benefit of research, factual material that can be put in front of them by the government so that they can back up the actions they're taking and get confidence that they're doing the right thing. But we're not seeing any of this from this government. It's a complete void, a complete lack of consultation, a complete lack of communication, and actually a virtually complete lack of action other than this pathetic little measure we're seeing in this bill. And in fact, you could accurately call it nothing more than window dressing, because that's all it is. It's such a minute contribution that it will actually make little or no progress at all towards reduction of CO2 emissions in New Zealand. Now, I want to mention now some of the things I've read in Paula Bennett's news release today. And the first thing she says, and I quote, "The subsidy will be phased out over 3 years to give businesses time to plan and adjust to support a more stable market," unquote. And then she says the current 50% unit cost will increase to 67% from 1st of January, 83% from 1st of January 2018, with all sectors in ETS paying the full market price 1st of January 2019. And the third thing that she says is the current price ceiling, which caps units at $25, will remain. And then for some strange reason goes on to say, and I quote, "This is a significant step in helping New Zealand meet its ambitious target of reducing emissions to 30% below 2005 levels by 2030, unquote. So we are expected to believe that these measures are a significant step, when in fact they're going to actually take 3 years to implement. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, business people, including those in the agricultural sector and in local government across the board in New Zealand, are desperate for much more significant measures than this. They're willing to play their part, but the government isn't telling them what to do. Instead, it's telling them, as far as ETS is concerned, take 3 years to get there. Well, that's absolutely pathetic. I mean, the measure itself is pathetic enough, but to actually take 3 years to get there is even more pathetic. And furthermore, the current price ceiling, which caps units at $25, will remain. So what that means is that we're going to have to wait a very long time before we get a genuine market for units in New Zealand, for the price of units in New Zealand. So without that actually being allowed to happen, because it'll take 3 years for this measure alone to be implemented, and even then there will be a price ceiling of $25, we're not actually going to see a genuine market in New Zealand emerge for a very long time. That time frame is totally unacceptable. It makes this measure, as I've said, nothing more than window dressing. The people of New Zealand, especially the business people of New Zealand, the people in the agricultural sector of New Zealand, people in local government and the public generally, all deserve much stronger leadership from that minister and this government than a pathetic measure like this that will take 3 years to implement, and in the absence of any genuine plan or strategy for the achievement of New Zealand's climate change target as committed to in Paris all those months ago. Frankly, if this is as good as this government can deliver, then it really deserves to be voted out of office at the next election next year. So let's hope that happens.
Paul Foster-Bell.